Okay, and I'm Aries, and it's my pleasure to have our fourth session about social psychology and personality for our AP Psychology Unit 4. So, first, we're going to talk about attribution. Attribution is the process of explaining the cause of behavior and the events. So we have different kind of attribution. The first one is this positional attribution. It's mainly focus about the internal qualities, which is focused on behavior based on an individual's internal characteristics. For example, our personality, our IQ, and our attitude toward things. Situational is the external circumstances. For example, it's the environmental factors, and for example, like weather events around the world. The next one is the self-serving bias. This is protecting personal self-esteem by blaming failures on external factors. This may prevent us from learning from our mistakes, but believe that success is because of our own internal factors. For example, we're going to take the AP psychology practice test. If I fail the exam, I might blame the weather is too hot. I don't like the environment. I don't like the room. I don't like people around me. But if I take the test and I got good score, I might take it as I study really hard, I'm smart. The actual observer's bias is attribute one's own behavior to external factors, for example, situational attribution, or while attributing others' behavior to internal factors, which is also the dispositional attribution. For example, if I'm late to work, I might blame the traffic is really bad today. But if my coworkers or other people are late and I saw it, I might think that's because they're too lazy to get up or they walk too slow, something like that. The fundamental attribution error is the tendency to overestimate the impact of internal factors when judging others' behavior and underestimate the external factors. Explanatory styles is how people explain events. People are going to explain it either in an optimistic explanatory style or a pessimistic explanatory style. So the first one, the optimistic explanatory style, is tend to explain bad event as temporary problems, and it always focus on external factors that are out of your control. Take the example I made a couple seconds ago, the AP exam. If I fail at the AP exam, I'll blame it to a temporary problems, which is exact the day I'm taking the exam. I hate the weather and I got sick. I don't like the school I'm taking the AP exam at. And all of those are temporary problems. I'm going to blame it to the external factors, not because of me. But opposite one, the pessimistic explanatory style is tend to explain bad events as permanent problem, and it's always focused on internal factors that end up impacting the individual, which means that if I fail the exam, I'll blame myself as, oh my gosh, I'm so stupid. That this kind of thought will actually impact my personality in the future. So that's why it's a permanent problem. And with the idea or the belief that I'm stupid, I didn't study enough, something like that, I might fail at other AP exams in the future. Locus of control. This is perceived control over life events, or in other words, beliefs about life control. There are two kinds of locus of control. The first one is external locus of control. And this is thinking that outside forces beyond or over or out of our control determine fate. Or you can say that in a situation of helpless. For example, individuals think that action can change anything, so they just stop trying. For example, if you believe that you are going to fail at the exam, and so you stop learning or you stop studying, and this will definitely cost you fail the exam because you didn't take any action. Yeah. The internal locus of control is thinking that you can control your own fate. For example, is your action can change the future. For example, I'm not good at math, but I am going to have AP calculus exam in the next year. So I believe that my action can change the future. So I study really, really hard until I change the future. And there's a mere exposure effect. The first one is the tendency to develop a preference for things, stimuli, simply because they're familiar. For example, if you are familiar with K-pop, for example, a aespa song, maybe not that much of people understand or get their songs at the first time they hear it, but after repeated for like 5 times, you'll feel like, oh, it's actually pretty good. I start to like them. But if the stimuli are being repeatedly over time, like over too many times, you might get annoyed. And self-fulfilling prophecy is a belief or expectation that influence behaviors to make the belief come true. For example, if you think you're going to fail the exam, you stop studying, you'll fail the exam, like what I said before. And also, manifest is a kind of positive self-fulfilling prophecy. And how manifest work is you think it positive and you think I'm going to be super rich in the future. And with this belief, it will affect your action and you start to do positive things until you actually be rich in the future. A lot of celebrities love manifest and it actually works. Social comparisons. There are two type of social comparison. The first one is upward, another one is downward. So what is social comparison? It evaluating ourselves by comparing ourselves to others people or others. So the upward involves comparing oneself to someone perceived as superior. Downward is comparisons to someone perceived as inferior. And usually when we're talking about comparing ourselves to others, we are comparing our skills, ability, internal characteristics, and so on. Basically, just compare everything between us and others. We're going to talk about attitude later. And attitude is how individuals think, feel, or behave towards others. Others means person, ideas, object, behavior, something like that. Explicit attitude. This is belief that the individual is aware of. Implicit attitude is attitudes are unconscious and affect our behavior, and even if the person is unaware of them. A just world phenomenon is the belief that people get what they deserve, and they believe that things are the way they are for a reason, and that the world is just. Before we go to talk about further theory, we're going to introduce two groups. One is out group and one is in group. Out group, basically, based on the out, you can understand that like people perceive to be part of a different group and that the individual is not considered as part of it. In group is individual perceive themselves as having similar characteristic, seeing themselves as part of the group. So out group is this is you, and this is the out group. And in group is you're in the group. And people are more likely to like the people in their group, and we're going to talk about it. So there are two bias. The first one is outgroup homogenetic bias. This is the tendency to view members of an outgroup as more similar to each other than they actually are. In-group bias is the tendency to favor members of one's own group over those outgroups. Okay, and we are going to talk about other three types of bias. The first one, ethnocentrism, Triism is the belief that one's own culture or ethnic group is superior or better than others. For example, in certain culture or belief, they believe that their culture is better than others, so they start a war toward them. For example, during the World War II, in Germany, they start a war toward Jewish people. It's because they think that their group is way better than Jewish people, so they kill them, which is bad. Uh, Confirmation bias is the tendency to confirm one's own pre-existing views when seeking or interpreting information. Belief perseverance is the tendency to hold on to one's initial beliefs even when they have been discredited. Stereotype. Stereotype is a generalized belief or assumption about a group of people. For example, we think that Black people are really good at music, they're good at sports, Asian people are good at math, white people are good at cooking, and something like that. Yeah, those are all stereotypes. Sometimes they're true, but not accurate to all of the people in that group. We're going to talk about prejudice attitude. Prejudice attitude is a negative attitude or feeling toward a group and its members. Explicit prejudice is the prejudice that people are aware of and consciously agree with. Implicit is the prejudice toward another without them being aware of it. I think implicit prejudice is more dangerous than explicit prejudice because sometimes you dislike or maybe discriminate to other group of people and you didn't even aware of it. But if explicit prejudice is like if you're aware it, you might be able to change it in the future. Well, meet somebody else and have like different knowledge about them. Discriminatory behavior is the behavior or action that results from prejudice. Is the unfair treatment toward individual based on group members. Cognitive dissonance is the mental discomfort experienced when an individual holds two conflicting beliefs, attitudes, or behaviors. Social norms. It's the unwritten standards of behavior within a society or groups. Social norms tell us what is okay and what is not okay to do. For example, in the image, we can see, where's my mouse? Oh, sorry, here. For example, um, it's not even written in every places, but we know that probably it's not good for drinking and smoking in most of the public place. We know that we need to brush our teeth most of the time so we can be clean and be polite to other people. And for example, laws can be also social norms. We might not be able to say bad words in public space or even punch other people with or without any reasons in public or in any situation. Those are all kinds of social norms. Next, we're going to talk about the multiculturalism. This is the coexistence of multiple cultures, respecting their difference and promoting equality within a society. Obedience is how individual responds to authority figures, which is usually they listen to whatever they say. Social influence theory is individuals change their behaviors or attitudes to align with the expectation of others. Examine how and why people are persuaded by others usually pretty easily because you want to be within the group. You don't want to be like the one who stand out usually. So when people, especially when people in with authority, you usually listen to them. The next one is normative influence. This is the influence based on the desire to be accepted and liked by group. This is also a part of the reason why people are easily to be persuaded. Informational is the influence based on the desire to be correct or accurate in one's belief. Elaboration likelihood model it's explaining how attitudes are changed and people are persuaded through either central or peripheral route. Central routes to persuasion. This is use fact to persuade someone. It usually takes more time and require elaboration because most of the time people doesn't like to hear a fact. Peripheral routes to persuasion, they use emotion to persuade sometimes and take less time. After that, we're going to talk about halo effect. Halo effect connects to these two type of routes to persuasion, and this is a cognitive bias, is an overall impression of a person, influence opinion about how we feel or think about them, and this is why the first impression is important. We're going to talk about two different persuasion strategy that is really useful in our lives. The first one is foot in the door technique. This is a persuasion strategy where people start with a small request and after people agree with it, another request can be made which will be a larger request. For example, first you ask your coworker or your friends to help you to open the bottle cap, and they say yes to it. And the next time you ask them to bring you something, for example, you ask your coworker to ask you to bring the pencil next to them, and they say yes to it. The next request might be you ask them to help you to do your task, and they are highly to say yes to you again. Door in the fact technique is persuasion strategies start with a large, generally unreasonable request. The next request will be a smaller one. For example, if you want to ask your friends to borrow 100 bucks, thank you so much. If you ask your friends to borrow 100 bucks, you want to use the door in the fact technique. So how will it work? You ask your friends to borrow $10,000 at the first. $10,000 is a really unreasonable request, and they'll definitely say no to you. And after they say no to you, and you will say that, okay, maybe $10,000 is a little bit too much. So how about you borrow me 100 bucks? And that's what you want at first, right? And your friends will automatically compare these two requests, and they'll think, okay, 100 bucks is way less than $10,000. So they will say yes to you. This is a good persuasion strategy if you want to borrow money. And you successfully get the 100 bucks you want. Polarization. This is the tendency for individuals' opinions, thoughts to become more extremes in group setting, leading to more extremes decision. For example, you are in a group with a lot of people agree with you or have the same political beliefs. And after the whole day conversation, at the end of the day, you will think that the people who believe in the opposite political groups than you might think that they're so stupid. Like, why people are even believing that? This is because of the group polarization. Like the people around you or they share the same belief with you will brainwash you to make you feel will make you do more extreme decision or have more extreme. Groupthink is consensus on group priorities over critical assessment, and this will lead to poor decision making because all of your group has the same idea with you. The de-individuation is the loss of self-awareness and personal accountability in group setting. This is due to individual feeling more anonymous in the group. Talking about anonymous, a thing that connects to it is social loafing. Social loafing is individual make less effort or not even trying when working in the group because this is because they can rely on others to carry up the group. So basically, they just stop doing what they need to do. Social facilitation is the opposite of social loathing. It's people perform better when they are together and due to being watched by others. So, for example, if I'm doing a work by myself, I might procrastinate it or similar to social loathing that I will not do it because I can rely on others. But if we are working together, all of the people are next to me, they are actually like physically watching me, so I might or like I need to force myself to actually do something because other people are watching me. False consensus effect is a cognitive bias that make people overestimate the number of people who agree with them or have the same idea with them. Superior donated goals is shared goals that require cooperation between groups, helping to reduce conflict. Social trap is the situations where individual or groups prioritize their short terms gained over long-term benefits, leading to negative outcomes. Altruistic act is the selfless act for the well-being of others without expecting any personal gains, and this lead to helping behavior, and this is the opposite side of the social trap. People might think that it is impossible for someone who actually help you with no reason, but there are actually some social norms that help people to do the things similar to Jesus, which is helping people without any expectation of reward. The first norm is social responsibility norms. This is the belief that an individual should help those in need, even without the expectation of a return. Another one is social reciprocal city norm. This is the expectation that people will help those who have helped them before. This norm is basically that if I helped somebody before, and I will expect that they help me in the future. So that's why I help people at first. Bystander effect. This is the phenomenon that where individuals are less likely to offer help when other people are present. Why bystanders effect are happening? This is usually due to, for example, somebody else will help them, or you just don't want yourself to get in troubles because others are watching you. Diffusion of responsibility as the individual feels less responsible for an outcome when others are present. Psychodynamic perspective is the belief that personality development and behavior are based on unconscious influence and early experiences. Displacement is you are redirecting the reaction or emotional response from one situation to another. For example, you want to hit someone, but you cannot do it. So you change your mind and you redirect it to you decided to go and hit a ball. Projection is the individual attributes their own threatening thoughts by attributing it to others. For example, thief always think everyone else is a thief. So that's why they're going to steal others because they feel like others people are going to steal them if they not steal others people. Yeah, it's a weird thought, but they actually think in this way. Rationalization. This is an individual justifies an uncomfortable thought to make it seem acceptable. Usually it's like social acceptable. So people who really like to drink, they drink a lot, will always say that I just drink because it is social. They blame it to like acceptable, social acceptable thing, but you shouldn't drink a lot, to be honest, even though you like it. Reaction formation is where people are expressing the opposite of how they truly feel. For example, you're in a family party and there's a family members you are familiar or unfamiliar to you. They come to you and something is said something really mean to you. But because they're older than you need to respect them, right? There's other people watching you. So you force yourself this fake smile to them, even though you're really mad, you want to punch them in the like deep side of your heart, but still need to smile it. That is the reaction formation, which is like basically just do the opposite thing you want to do. Regression is an individual regresses to conform to comfort things from childhood. Regresses, it's a word that like you can think about it as you go back to the past. So for example, when you feel scared or uncomfortable, you think about your baby blankets or like nails biting when scared. So all of this action are like the action that you have when you're a child. So that's what it means by regress. Like you go back to the past when you're in a baby. Sublimation is redirecting unacceptable impulses into socially acceptable behaviors. This is pretty similar to the displacement. For example, this one's sublimation is more focused on the action itself, not the object. For example, you still want to hit someone, but you cannot. So you start to do boxing. So you have like a social acceptable behavior and acceptable reason to actually punch somebody. And repression is an individual push thoughts and distressing memories into the subconscious to banish all anxiety. This is also a type of protect mechanism. And like we talked about it in last two class ago. So let's start with ego. Ego is it's really important in personality by regulating impulses, and it do negotiated between the id and the environment, and it is what everyone see as our personality. Superego, it is our conscious and what we think the difference is between right and wrong. This represent our idea, moral value, and judgment. The id is it exists in the unconscious and strives to satisfy one's most basic drives. It focuses on pleasure and immediate gratification. There are two types of tests. The first one is projective test. This is a kind of test that have open responses and do not limit the test taker to answer. So this can help us better to analyze one's personality. Objective test is the test that has a limit answer and looking for a specific response from the test taker. Humanistic psychology is the natural goodness of people and their desire to continue to grow to reach their final potential. Unconditional positive regard, or UPR, is the accepting and valuing someone without any condition or requirement. The opposite for UBR is conditional positive regard. This is when acceptance is given only if the individual meets the certain condition or requirement. Self-concept is the overall perception and understanding of oneself. Self-esteem is one's evaluation of their own worth or self-value. Self-actualizing tendency is the natural drive to realize one's full potential and capacity. Social cognitive theory, it highlights the role of cognition at focusing on how one think about and interpret situation and how it directly influences their personality. Self-efficacy is the belief in one's ability to succeed in specific situation. Let's talk about the big five theory of personality, or you can say the big five traits of personality. So these five traits made up our personality. The first one, neuroticism, is the emotional stability. It involves one's tendency to experience emotional stability and remains calm in stressful situation. So if you get a high score in that, it means that you are emotional or temperamental or you're very worried. But if you get a low score, it means calm or even temperate or secure. Conscientiousness involves one's organization, involves the dependability and the goal-directed behaviors. Agreeableness is the personality dimension that includes friendliness, cooperation, and warmth. If the people was low in the dimension, it means that they're cold. And if it's the opposite, if you get a high score, then it means they're warmth. Warmth always means like you're kind to people, you like to help other. This is like the both cold and warm are represent with the personality, not the physical body temperature. The openness is the willingness to try new things and be open to new experience. The last one is extroversion. This is one's sociability, enthusiasm, and assertiveness. And the opposite of the extroversion is the introversion. We're going to talk about personality inventories. This is a specialized questionnaires designed to evaluate traits with agree or disagree questions, which measure where they fall on each of the big five traits or the big five theories. Factor analysis is statistical method used to identify cluster of related traits or behavior. Cluster, you can think it as a group. So motivation is consists to biological, emotional, social, and cognitive forces, all of which influence an individual to take actions. Instinct is innate, or you can think it as natural behavior that are biological programmed and exhibited by all members of a species. Drive reduction theory is behavior led by the need for individual to maintain homeostasis, like hunger or thirst. Let's talk about homeostasis. Maybe you already learned it in your science class when you're in high school. So homeostasis is the process by which the body maintains a stable internal environment. For example, if you're too hot, body will help you to cool down the temperature. If you're too cold, then your body will help you to kind of like warm up yourself and to reach the balance, the balance status of your body. Let's also use the example we talked during the last concept. If you're hungry, your body or like your brain will send out signal that will make you want to search for food. If you're thirsty, then your brain will kind of like make you to go out and find some water or some drinks to make you hydrated. All purpose of that is just they want to meet the balance or the homeostasis for your body to make you survive. Arousal theory is that focus on how people's motivation are impacted by the amount of stimulation they are experiencing. Connect to that, there's a law called Yerkes Donson law. This is the principle that performs increase with arousal. It will keep increasing until they reach a certain point, and beyond that certain point, it will decrease or it declines, like the graph I show at the bottom. So they start to grow, they increase it with arousal, and they reach this. This is a really strong certain point. They cannot beyond this point. They will definitely go down when they reach this certain point. There are two types of motivation. The first one is intrinsic motivation. This is the motivation driven by internal reward, such as personal satisfaction or enjoyment. Like you can see, there are two types of motivation, right? The one start with intrinsic. We'll focus on the in, which is the internal reward, and the extrinsic motivation. The X you can think as the external reward. So this is the motivation driven by external reward such as money or recognition. Self-determination theory on it emphasizes the importance of intrinsic motivation, states how people are naturally grow, and this happens when a person feels control over their action. Incentive theory is the theory that people are motivated by external reward or incentives, for example, money. Sensation seeking theory is people have different need for experience. There are different kind of sensation seeking. The first one is experience seeking. This is a desire for new or unconventional and stimulating experience. For example, you taking new class, you meet new people, anything that's new to you. This is experience seeking. You're looking for new experience. Adventure seeking, which is basically you're looking for adventure. This is seeking activities that are physically exciting and potentially dangerous. For example, the physically risky activity. You go do skydiving, you try to climb mountain, or even the tallest one, which is a lot of people they die because of it, is the it is the Mount Comolamas. The disinhibition is seeking activity that involves social freedom or breaking norms. For example, join a party. And when we said join a party, you can usually do whatever you want, like drinking, smoking. Maybe you punch some people because you drink too much. The boredom susceptibility, this is the tendency to be easily bored, and people seek excitement because it's easily to get bored. Now is motivational conflict theory. It focuses on how people become motivated to act when facing choice. Facing new choices, usually. What does that mean? And there are three new things that we need to be highlight. It's pretty easy to remember because it's just basically two words. The first word, approach. Second word, avoidance. So the first one, approach, is the individual must choose between two positive options. For example, you got two jobs offer, you need to decide which one you are going to in the future. Avoidance is the individual must choose between two equally negative options. For example, you stay home, you need to choose between do your housework or do your homework. Approach avoidance is a single option has both positive and negative aspect. For example, you get a dream job, that is the approach, but you need to drive 2 hours in the morning to go to your job, to go to work. That is the avoidance. So I think helpful tips to remember this approach, avoidance thing is you can think as approach is positive and avoidance is negative. If it's approach, that will be two positive things. So you need to choose between two positive options. If it's avoidance, this is two negative. So it means that you need to choose between two negative options. We are reaching to our last section. It's the emotion. It's a complex psychological state that involves subjective experience, physiological response, and behavioral expression. The first one, facial feedback hypothesis, is the theory that facial expression can influence emotional experience. For example, the image on the right side, like you can see people are sad, and you can see their facial expression is like, it's sad. You can actually feel their sadness if somebody is crying in front of you. Or maybe you had a bad day and you're pretty sad, but your friend has a really great, happy facial express in front of you, and it can actually influence your emotional experience. And the next theory is broaden and build theory. So this theory suggesting that positive emotion will expand individuals' awareness, and this could leading to personal growth. So that's why we need to experience more positive emotion, except for negative emotion. We cannot kind of like 100% make sure we are not having any negative emotion in our lives, but think positive or like have more positive emotion could lead us to have like a better future. The last one we're going to talk about today is the display rules. This is social and cultural guidelines for how and when emotion should be expressed. For example, you're in others' funeral. Our social and cultural guidelines 100% tell us we cannot laugh at others' funeral, right? Or we cannot cry really, really sadly like somebody is going to die in others' wedding. Or you you said how much you hate a cat in front of your a cat parent, something like that. Yeah, so the display rules it just make sure that we have the correct emotion expression in the right time.